We're going to just quickly talk about what is co-ownership, how does it work, and then leave you with kind of some ways, what can you do to get started? What is co-ownership? It's actually really simple. It's when two or more unmarried people buy real property together. It could be friends, it could be siblings, or you could do it with your parents, you could do it with your aunt, you could do it with people you don't know. I really see co-ownership. What I'm really interested in, this is a tool that can make a real difference in helping renters achieve homeownership, getting your foot kind of in that homeownership door. Really simply, that's what it is. What is co-ownership? What I want to do right now is just look at two sample properties, just to give you an idea of how could this work. So these are real listings. I check the MLS every day and see properties, honestly, every day that become listed that I think could be great for co-ownership. Here's one, 2924 Nickel Ave here in Oakland, listed at $899, and it's a duplex. It's a 3-1 in each side. There's also a huge detached garage in the back, which even could have potential for kind of an ADU. Listed at $899, been on the market for 3 months, so you could get it for less than $899. So if you split that between two folks, say you offered them $850, you could get in and get a 3-1 for $425 on each side. I'm going to acknowledge $425 is still a lot of money. So I'm not going to say that it's affordable, but it's more affordable. There's not a lot of properties for $425 you can kind of get in the Bay Area. And so while I like to say it tries to make, it definitely opens up slightly more affordable. And it's actually a beautiful property. I went over and looked at it myself because I have to say I love these old wood floors here. So that's just kind of one example. Split right down the middle, 50-50, you each take a side. This second property is a little bit different. So this one, this is up in Crockett, just north of here before you go over the Vallejo Bridge. It's 2 homes on one lot, but 3 units in total. So there's a 3-1 and a 2-1 in the main house, and then there's a 1-1 in the back. And so if you took this is listed at $896, also on the market for 3 months. So you could offer probably a little bit less. One way that you could take this one here is you could divide the whole property, the total square footage, divided by each unit, how much square footage they each have. You could do it that way. And that's where you kind of see the numbers on the left. I put in some other numbers here. You might want to adjust it slightly for amenities. I mean, that 3-1 might have to pay a little bit more because they do have that extra bedroom or something. But here you could see this one in the middle. We've got the 3-1 coming in at $350, the 2-1 at $310, and the 1-1 at $200. And third off, say 2 families wanted to split it and they wanted to actually keep that 1-1 maybe as extra shared space. So maybe they split it $450 and $4, and they share that back unit. So this is going to be kind of our timeline here. Right out of the gate, first step is first, and I say this to all of my clients, regardless of whether you're buying independently or as a potential co-owner, you have to know your purchasing power. You got to get pre-approved. It's the first step to even knowing what's possible. Why I love working with Cher is that we have in-house loan officers. So if you have somebody that you love, a banker that you love, that you want to work with, you can. But here at Cher, we really do offer kind of this start to finish. We can work with you from that very first conversation all the way through to the end. And getting pre-approved really helps you understand exactly what you can afford right now on your own. You may like that number and you may decide that you want to go up and do it independently, and that is great. And we can help you with that as well. You may also find out that you kind of can't qualify for what you want, and we can work with you also to then kind of come up with a plan. Okay, what's a 1 or 2 year plan to get you to where you want to be? Or you might get that information back once you get pre-approved and be like, okay, now I know what I can bring to the table. I am open to this idea of co-ownership. So I really just encourage folks. I just met with a client the other day and they were like, I'm not ready to buy yet, so I'm not sure. And I said, do not wait until you think you're ready to start talking to a lender about getting pre-approved, because the information that you can get starting that conversation is going to give you so much information and empower you to really know what's possible. So even if you don't think that you're ready to buy for another year or 2, honestly, I would say have an initial conversation. I'd love it if you had an initial conversation with our loan officers here, and would love to kind of help you just understand where you are at right now and what that means. So first steps first, know your purchasing power. After that, the rest of the steps are kind of the co-ownership process. So that's for anyone. So I'm just going to put these steps up here, and then we have a slide for each one. So we're going to You know your purchasing power, you know you've gotten pre-approved, so then you're going to think about, who do I want to buy with? Then you're going to think about, what types of properties might we be interested in? And then you're going to kind of consider how are you going to finance the project? What are some loan options? And you're going to think through those three pieces. And then you're going to do risk mitigation. And you're going to really, it's buying a house is risky. Buying property is risky as an individual. Buying as a group, I'm not going to lie and say that it's not less risky, right? You want to really be thinking through a lot of pieces. And so we're going to talk about, what is a tenants in common agreement, and what are some things that you want to think about if you're considering co-buying. Then there's kind of the property search and escrow process. Usually the real estate agent's job stops when the escrow closes, but actually here at Cher, we work with you even past that. So once you have the keys, we're going to do maintenance setup and help you set that up. And then we are also here for you in the future, if and when, one of the co-buyers wants to sell. So these are the steps that we are gonna walk through together, just a little bit more detail. Great, okay. So who can you buy with? You definitely want to start thinking, start with your inner circle. I have a client who it was two cousins and their mom. So they bought a four unit. They each got a unit, and they all kind of went in on that together. So, there might be kind of somebody in your family, siblings, friends, aunts, uncles. Tap your existing network of friends. You never know who might actually be kind of thinking about, really wanting to get their foot in the door and move in, until you start having conversations with them. And then you're going to think about, well, what types of properties do we want? So again, just some examples. For people who are open to co-living, you can do a single family home. I know single parents who have said, this is great, let's split a house, let the kids run around together. And so single family homes are definitely a possibility, up to 2 to 4 multi-units. You can buy more than 4 units, but often you don't find those vacant, and they do get a little bit more complicated. Possible, but I would say that 2 to 4 units are definitely, slightly easier to work with. Like the 2 houses on 1 lot, like I mentioned in that previous example, there's actually a surprising amount of those. Once I kind of got digging, I was actually surprised with how many listed properties are multiple separate units on 1 lot. And then of course, we've all kind of seen those kind of family style units, right? Where you've already got kind of that built-in in-law unit or ADU, and those can be great as well. So you've thought about who you want to buy with. You've thought about what different types of properties that you want to share. Let's think about loans. So like I said, with Cher having in-house loan officers, this is something that we can really help advise our clients on from the beginning. If you go just to one bank, they're going to have their products, and they're not going to know about what else is kind of out there and what else is possible. But just to break it down quickly, a conventional loan is that regular traditional mortgage that, your friend who bought a house last month probably got. It's one joint loan. So me and my co-borrower are going to go in on one loan together. As far as the bank is concerned, we are both responsible for that one loan. The pros to doing a conventional loan, it unlocks down payment assistance. Really, the California state assistance programs are designed inside of this conventional loan system. So if you're looking for down payment assistance, the conventional loan is is the one that's going to unlock the most options there for you. And often it has a lower interest rate than some of the other options. However, it can present some challenges if one person wants to sell regarding kind of having to refinance that loan. So there's things that you can do to mitigate that, which is step 4, and we'll get to kind of risk mitigation. But if you're both on one loan together, it does mean if one person, say there's 2 co-borrowers or 3 co-borrowers, and one person was to not pay their portion of the mortgage, it could put the whole property in default. It's a one joint loan. However, we're going to talk about next what you can do to kind of mitigate that. But it's just important to know that's what it means if you get one joint loan together. Versus the next one here is a TIC loan. It's a TIC, a tenants in common loan. And that is actually separate loans for individual units. You can't use like a TIC loan on a single family home property, for example, right? You actually have to have separate units that have their own kitchens and their own bathrooms. But in this option, it is by far the easiest exit strategy. So if one person needs to sell their portion of the property, they have their own loan and they can just go ahead and sell that. And it really does not impact the other person. If somebody was to default on their loan, it does not impact the other person. So there's definitely some pros there. Sometimes a higher down payment, and I say higher down payment, higher than conventional loan, not, so it might require a 15, local bank here does a 15% down loan, is the kind of the lowest you would need for that. And it does unfortunately limit access to down payment assistance programs because the state of California is not moving fast enough on what I would like to see them really opening up eligibility to their down payment assistance programs to some of these more creative ownership pathways. So something that, we're actively, advocating for and working on, but at the moment it may limit DPA. As we work with our clients and work with our different lender partners, we will help kind of figure out what's possible. This last kind of loan options, it's not an LLC loan, that's kind of the wrong way to say it, but it's a loan to an LLC. So the buyers form an LLC to purchase the property. The benefits here, it allows for easier exit strategy. I would say TIC loan is the easiest. LLC does kind of make the exit strategy potentially easier. I would say that this is really good if you're doing 5 co-owners coming in and doing something, because all the folks are members of the LLC, and it's easier to change out those LLC owners without it doesn't then affect you having to refinance the loan on the house. But the con, it does require an LLC setup, and it's not horribly cost prohibitive, but there is some money required and some paperwork and stuff to file. So those, like I said, a very kind of simplified version of a few of the loan options that we have out there. And like I said, our team can work through kind of all of these in more detail. So we've thought through who we're going to partner with, what types of properties, you've kind of set your criteria. You've gotten pre-approved and kind of thought about what financing path you want to go down. So here, I apologize in advance, this is the slide with the heaviest text, but it's honestly in the co-ownership process, it is the most important step of the whole process. This is where you're going to do all of your kind of risk mitigation and setting yourselves up for success. A tenants in common agreement, it is a legal contract between the owners that outlines rights, responsibilities, and rules governing the property. You can kind of think of TIC agreement like a condo has HOA documents. It's all those rules and all those agreements and all the procedures. And I can't stress enough how important this step is, and to do a draft of your TIC agreement with your group before you even start looking for properties. At least get a draft down, because there's a lot of things you guys are going to want to think through. How are we going to agree to use of the space? How are we going to contribute to, a capital improvement fund if we need to put a new roof on in 5 years? How are we going to manage this property together so that we can all be successful? So what I want to say here about this step is that Cher, I work with my clients on this step. I'm your partner. I'm your partner in this. We are, Cher is your partner in this because we have sample templates and documents. So no one is starting from scratch. And then we have kind of a checklist of questions and really want to kind of go through all of those. And we don't just hand those to you and say, go have fun. We're going to facilitate conversations and kind of, a series of conversations with your group to kind of go through those. And sometimes just having that third party kind of in the room is helpful. So step 5, this is kind of just your traditional home buying process. If you were to kind of go out tomorrow and kind of buy a house on your own, right? You're going to search for what you like. You're going to go view it. You're going to submit some offers. You're going to negotiate. Your offer is going to get accepted. You're going to go into escrow, and then you're going to close escrow. So there is a lot in here. This is kind of your traditional home buying process. Again, if you haven't bought a home before, having an initial conversation with us is a great place to start. We can answer any of your questions about what these kind of steps in this process is. There's also really great, first-time home buyer resources out there. I really encourage actually a lot of my clients to do the kind of the Cal HAFA, first-time homeowner like certificate course, because even if you want to be eligible for Cal HAFA down payment assistance or any of those programs, you have to do that program. Even if you're not, it is such great information to have if you have not gone through this process before. But we're here to kind of answer any of those questions as well. I think I mentioned it during escrow, you would kind of complete your TIC agreement and have that all kind of like dialed in and locked down. So that when you close escrow, you've got the keys, you've got your TIC agreement, and you guys can all move in and start enjoying your property. So let's just pretend that's happened. You have got the keys and you have moved in. Often that's the last interaction you kind of have with your real estate agent or loan officer, right? You got your keys and, we leave you a bottle of wine. Welcome home, welcome to your new home, and goodbye. But actually working with Cher, we work with you past that to help you set everything up. After close of escrow, we're gonna actually then work with you to set up all the structures that you laid out in your TIC agreement, right? So how much money and where's the fund? How are we putting in money for our general maintenance fund? Just that stuff we gotta kind of take care of throughout the year. A reserve fund, this is something, if you remember back when we were talking about the financing, and if you get a conventional loan and you guys are on that loan together, if somebody doesn't pay, that could affect the whole property. Here at Cher, we 1000% recommend that you have a reserve fund that is set up that, you might not be able to put 6 months rent or 6 months of your mortgage payment into it right away, especially if you just bought a home and, used a lot of your funds to actually get the home. But what we work with you on is, okay, over the next 6 months, how are we going to build up that reserve fund? And it is just such a great risk mitigating factor if you have that fund set aside and everybody that's a part of that property knows that there is money there if somebody does lose their job, if somebody does have a health issue, needs to take some time off, if something does happen, you have planned ahead and you have thought about how, again, to mitigate that risk. When something happens to someone like that, it's just so much better to feel supported by the folks that you're living with, instead of that being kind of an immediate stressor right out of the gate. So we help you really think through, how are you going to set up that reserve fund? Where's that money going to live? How does that all work? And the other one to think about is a capital improvement fund. Kind of like I said, if you go through the house during escrow and you see, okay, well, I know that we're going to need, we're going to need to put a new roof on, or we're going to need to get new water heaters, or whatever it might, well, water heaters is more like general maintenance, but capital improvement stuff, setting aside money for that separate from your reserve fund and separate from your general maintenance fund. Homeownership is expensive. And what I think is most important is that folks feel prepared and knowledgeable and set up. So we work with you to kind of set up all of these systems afterwards. And then of course, I'm just mentioning taxes and insurance. If for any reason that's not included in your monthly mortgage payment, we'll work to make sure that, again, all the taxes, insurance, everything is set up so that, you don't find out, oh, somebody hasn't been paying their portion of the insurance, or we don't have the money to pay our tax bill when it comes due. So we work with you through that whole process. And then that brings us here actually to our last step, which is, you've been enjoying your home, everything's going great, but we know circumstances change, right? Eventually, someone's gonna, want or need to sell their share in the property. And how do you do that? Well, we have we call it our reshare program. We are able to kind of step in and help fractionally sell, if one of the owners wants to sell. But what I think is just important here to remember is, because we worked with you from the beginning, we understand your financing terms. We helped you write your TIC agreement, so we know how that's all structured. So we can really step in and help with this kind of selling fractionally, because we helped you set it up from the beginning. So we're kind of here for you kind of through the whole process, which that's it. Those are the steps. So I'm just going to bring us back here to kind of seeing kind of that full. So kind of seeing the steps here kind of all laid out again. We're doing a high level overview, and we'll be going into each one of these in more depth in separate sessions. And I'm just going to come back and say it again. Don't wait until you feel like you're ready to buy. Really get in there and start talking with us now, and we can help kind of come up with a really great plan for you. And so I'll just leave you with this, which is here are kind of three next steps. Let's have an initial conversation, just find out where you're at. What are your goals? What are you thinking about? What questions do you have? And then we're going to be putting up more and more resources on our website. So, each week we're putting out new blog posts with different resources. So we hope to kind of build that out over the year. And then, like I've been mentioning probably too many times, we're going to be having info sessions every month, going into each of these topics and having experts come and give us their take on this. So would love if you could come out to future sessions.